Well, I was wondering what today's show was going to be about, and all of a sudden, wow.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter, or whatever they're calling it these days. And on the Instagrams, you can follow me. I'm at Locked On MLB on Instagram. And, every once in a while, you may see me on something called Blue Sky. Not often. The best way to get a hold of me is to subscribe to us on YouTube. And I always read the comments. Absolutely. And I see some people here on the live feed right now. Hey, SBK. Hey, Sully. Hey, is my I had a little issue with my microphone just before recording. If you're hearing me fine, let me know. I'm just sort of shouting this out into the wilderness. And by the way, if you're looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious, get snackin and crackin with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com. Wonderful Pistachios. It's in the name. Okay, I was figuring out what the hey I was going to talk about tonight. And I was like, well, Anthony Rendon is going to be hurt. But I know it'd be breaking news if Anthony Rendon wasn't hurt. I'm sorry, I don't mean to dogpile on Anthony Rendon. I'm going to talk a tiny bit about the Angels at the tail end of this show. But I took my dog Eleanor for a walk, and I saw that Nick Pivetta signed a 4-year deal with the San Diego Padres. And I thought, well, I got my lead in. I made the background, I created the thumbnail, I titled the episode, and I was on the verge of hitting record when I got a text that said the Red Sox signed Alex Bregman. And call me crazy, that's what we're talking about right now. This is a huge move for the Red Sox. This is a huge move, first of all, for Red Sox fans who, since winning the 2018 World Series, a World Series where they were cheating, there should be an asterisk on that one. If you're going to put one up next to 2017 with the Astros, you also have to do that with the 2018 Red Sox. All right? There were shenanigans, all sorts of craziness happening. They did beat the Astros, so it was a cheater versus cheater ALCS, but I digress. The Red Sox fans, since winning that tainted World Series, have had one trip to the postseason. And that was the year that somehow they made it to the ALCS, where they beat the Dusty Baker Astros. And there's been not a lot to cheer about. And there's been a lot of things to be angry about if you're a Red Sox fan. That the Mookie Betts trade. And we talked about this with Gabby. I called her Gabby Hurlbut. I'm sorry. I'm used to calling her that. From Locked On Red Sox the other day. We talked about, the Mookie Betts trade is one of the most disastrous trades. It's the worst trade of the 21st century. Name me a worse trade where it wasn't like a salary dump, like the Roy Halladay trade. This was a team with piles of money. They could have signed Mookie Betts to extension like that. I can't even snap. And they traded him for pennies on the dollar because they wanted to say, a bunch of billionaires who weren't lowering ticket prices wanted to save $4.78. The Mookie Betts trade, there's absolutely no defending it. It went down in history then, and it gets worse every year. It is one of the single worst trades in the history of baseball and the worst of this century. And they let, Xander Bogaerts walk. I don't blame them on Chris Sale. I thought Chris Sale was done and that they could get a decent infield prospect for him, so be it. Nobody saw he was winning the Cy Young Award. But the Red Sox, one of the wealthiest organizations, a team that could print money, could sign anyone they want, decided, hey, we won 4 titles, 3 of them without an asterisk, and that should be enough, and started acting like, oh, we're just trying to save money here and there. Yes, they signed Rafi Devers, but I think it's because they saw that a bunch of people from Chelmsford, Charlestown, and Framingham were going to burn Fenway to the ground if they didn't re-sign Rafael Devers. Well, now they brought in Alex Bregman. In a year, they also brought in Crochet, and they brought in Walker Buehler. Now, they lost Tyler O'Neill, and I think that he was a nice fit on the team. Bregman's better. And they signed him to a 3-year deal. It was not a massive I know he wanted a massive 6-year deal. He's not getting that. And I don't necessarily like to think of things always based upon how they fit the owners, but I think this is probably a smart signing for the Red Sox and not a bad signing for Alex Bregman. Sure, he turned down a 6-year deal or whatever it was a few years ago. I don't believe in Schadenfreude. I mean, he turned that down, took his chances. It didn't work out for a long-term deal. The Red Sox got him for a 3-year deal, so he'll still be in his mid-30s. It's not like they've signed him until he's 48 years old. This is a Gold Glove third baseman who was recently in 2019. I don't worship at the altar of war, but he led the American League in WAR in 2019, which kind of gives you an idea that maybe he's not bad at his job. He has some power, plays good defense, has right-handed pop, can play several different positions. Now, he's a Gold Glove third baseman. And if I'm the Red Sox, I'm not, but I would come up to Rafi Devers and I would say, Rafi, we love you. You are the, God almighty, Alex Cantu, call it off, overpay, stop, just stop. I know you wanted to make a cool sort of hip thing, stop. They got an all-star caliber player for 3 years, and not a break the bank move for the Red Sox, and a lot of money for him. So there you go. The Red Sox have money. The Red Sox cannot possibly overpay a player, especially since they've been a bunch of cheapskates and swimming in a Scrooge McDuck pile of money. Okay? So stop with the overpay. That's silly. Bregman, if I were Devers, I'd say you are the cornerstone of this franchise, but you're not here for your glove. You're just walk right over to first base. There's your position. Devers been an all-star caliber player for the last bunch of years, has had a couple of really good seasons in a row. And of course, he's never played a game at first base in the major league level. Do you put him at DH? I'll talk to you about it. Fine. But he's not a great third baseman. And he is a tremendous offensive player. And the team got a hell of a lot better with Bregman. If he could do that and be the professional, pull an A-Rod. Remember everyone talked about how selfish A-Rod was? He was the one who changed positions. He was a superior shortstop to Jeter, but you can't say anything bad about St. Derek Jeter. But now you have, if you put Devers right there at first base, I know there's a lot of noise about putting Bregman at second base. Bregman's an elite third baseman. That's where I would put him. All right? Now, nobody's asking me, but that's where I would put him. Call me crazy. But all of a sudden, the lineup gets better, and you are filled this team with some solid veterans. And as we talked about yesterday, the 3 big fellas are going to be coming up soon. The 3 big fellas, whether, Marcelo Mayer, Roman Anthony, and Christian Campbell, are all on their way up. Christian Campbell is probably going to make the team out of spring training. Roman Anthony and Marcelo Mayer will not be far behind. Neither will Franklin Arias, for that matter, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Those are the three of the top prospects in baseball are coming up, and they're going to be surrounded by World Series champion all-star players. And the Red Sox have addressed their rotation. They have addressed their lineup. Now, as we said yesterday, the bullpen still has some issues, but mix and match players. See who you can get, and then you look up, and next thing you know, the Red Sox are playing in an American League where 85 to 86 wins will be enough. And by the way, that notion that teams are aiming for 85, 86 wins is going to be a topic on a later episode, because that's the real issue. Not salary caps, not salary floors. It's that teams have realized, well, that's all we got to put on the field. We don't need to put a great field on the team. We'll put a good field team on the field and roll the dice. And when one or two teams like the Mets or Dodgers say, we're going to pay for a great team and start spending as if they're aiming for something higher than 86 wins, that gets the other owners angry. And therefore, all this nonsense about we need a salary cap, we need a this, there's going to be a lockout. It's not between the owners and the players. It's between some owners and other owners. And that's the fact, Jack. But the Red Sox are saying, all right, fine. They were an 81 win team as they were last year. And there you go. There you go. And Astros fans they prepared for this. In the Kyle Tucker trade, they added to their infield. And Killer Cam TV says, as a lifelong Astros fan, I'm a miss Breggy bombs away hitting homers in the Crawford boxes. That's always a good thing to do. Look at the fans of the team who are losing the player, and you'll get a sense of who you're getting. So, and as Noah says, this is going to make the division race interesting. Yeah, as we said yesterday, Gabby and I talked about this. The Yankees are a good team, but they just lost Soto. You don't know how that's going to affect Judge in the lineup. Why the hell would you ever throw him a strike at this point? And a lot of things work their favor health-wise in the rotation. Yes, I know Cole missed a few months on the IL, but he was back at full strength in the playoffs in the World Series. But they got a lot of good years for some players like, obviously the big one, Luis Heel, the Rookie of the Year. And, they got a good solid half season from Cole, Nestor Cortez, and Carlos Rodon. Cortez is now gone. And Clark Schmidt. They a lot of people were healthy. And they got to assume those players are healthy and the Paul Goldschmidts and everyone can make up for the loss of Juan Soto. The Yankees are still good, but low 90 win team. Orioles, low 90, mid 80 win team. Rays, who knows? They're playing in a minor league stadium. Blue Jays, who knows? They have the talent to win, but they don't. The Red Sox were a 500 team last year, and they improved on it. It looks like there's going to be 5 teams between 90 and 80 wins. So who's going to win? I don't know, but as Noah said, it's going to be a lot more interesting. Now, the Red Sox gained a big player, but today they also lost a player. Hey, are you looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with wonderful pistachios. That's what they're called, wonderful pistachios. Wonderful pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help you keep feeling fuller longer. I love the no shells variety. It's the perfect grab and go snack for busy days. Whether I'm snacking at my desk or getting ready to do the podcast and I just need a quick protein boost, they're always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, they got the in-shell option for you as well. It's a fantastic source of protein, giving you all 9 essential amino acids. No shell pistachio, wonderful pistachios, they have that grab and go ease. And whether you're running between meetings or dropping off the kids, wonderful pistachios are the snack that works as hard as you do. Get snackin' and crackin' with a snack that packs a protein punch. Say that 3 times fast. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Wonderful pistachio, it's in the name. Nice comment from, where is it? Lav S says, just when you think Boris overplayed his hand, he gets 40 mil AAV for Bregman. Yeah, he gets paid, and the Red Sox aren't handcuffed to a 6-7 year deal. So, I mean, I think in many ways, and the Red Sox are going to get what they need from a World Series champion, Gold Glove slugging third baseman as they bring up the next generation of big Red Sox stars, but aren't going to be a situation where they're like, oh God, he's 38 years old and still being paid. $19 million a year. No, I think everyone worked out just fine. I'm really, really surprised that the Red Sox didn't bring back Nick Pivetta. Not that I think Nick Pivetta is the second coming of Grover Cleveland Alexander, but because they gave him a qualifying offer, that put a pretty heavy yoke on him, especially for the teams that do not want to sacrifice a draft pick for a free agent with the qualifying offer pick on them. I made the point that for teams like Kansas, Kansas City, who has a pretty deep farm system, Cleveland's pretty deep farm system, sign him. Now, if I'm not mistaken, they don't actually lose a draft pick. They actually go on to the compensation, but I could be wrong. All these rules seem to change all the time. I'm under the assumption that they lose a draft pick if you sign someone with a qualifying offer. That's why people are slow to do it. But if you're a team, like I said, like Cleveland, who could use some pitching depth and everything like that, of course, they could really use some hitting depth. But some other teams definitely could use pitching depth. I thought, well, geez, if it's just going to cost you one pick and you get a major league player on your roster, why not? And I thought he was just going to re-sign with Boston for whatever, because it wasn't going to cost them anything. But he signed with San Diego. Now, for San Diego, I like this move for the same reason that I've said over and over and over again. I'm a big believer if you're a contending team, and lest we forget, in the second half of the season, no team in baseball was better than San Diego. And if their bats didn't go totally dead in games 4 and 5 of the division series against Los Angeles, they probably would have gone to the World Series. They probably would have won. If San Diego played the Yankees, they would have clocked them. But you have Dylan Cease, as of this recording, is still with San Diego. Michael King is still with San Diego. Yu Darvish is still with San Diego. And now you have Pivetta. They have a good starting rotation. If they want to trade Cease, and that still could be on the table, then at least you're replacing, the worst case scenario is if they trade Cease and they try to get some young players back from him, you are replacing Cease with another major league pitcher. If they keep Cease, you're asking Pivetta to be your number 4 starter, and that's not too bad. Now, hopefully for San Diego, the whole soap opera with the widow and the brother and everything, the Peter Seidler situation, hopefully that's all going to be in the past. San Diego is one of the most exciting teams in baseball. And I am, and I've made this clear, a big, big fan of generational sports moments. The moments that you go like, oh my God, I never thought I would live to see this. We saw it a couple of years ago when Texas won the World Series. The Rangers had never won the World Series. We saw it in 2019 when the Washington Nationals, that franchise dating back to Montreal, had never won the World Series. And the city of Washington had not had a World Series title since the 1924 World Series. By the way, I'm a big believer in a city should get all the stats for the players that played there. Like Walter Johnson's stats shouldn't be hanging on the wall in Minnesota. Those should be in Washington. He won in Washington. The John McGraw and Christy Mathewson and Mel Ott and Bill Terry have their names along the wall in San Francisco. They should be in New York. They won those in New York. They won those for the fans of New York. But that's a whole different podcast, and I'm sure some people can poke holes at this, that, and maybe even the other thing. But that's the reason why I'm glad Willie Mays' number is retired with the Mets. Not that he was a great player with the Mets, but he had so much greatness in New York that has to be recognized somewhere. Same with Henry Aaron in Milwaukee, although he wasn't a great Brewer, but he was a great Milwaukee Brave. I digress. The Padres have a chance to do something great. Yes, I know everyone's saying LA has bought the title. They haven't. There have been teams that go into the season completely stacked, and even coming off of multiple, World Series trips and everything like that, and come back going, oh my God, they are so stacked, it's not even fair, and have fallen short. I can't think of a more stacked team than the 2011 Philadelphia Phillies, who were coming off of the 4 straight division titles, back-to-back pennants in '08 and '09, winning the World Series in '08. In 2010, they had the great pitching staff that they had, but they collided with a San Francisco team who could answer their pitching staff. And so they said, to heck with it. They reacquired Cliff Lee. They had a staff that was so deep that freaking Roy Oswalt was their number 4 starter. And they had their greatest regular season in the history of the team. And I was talking back in my old podcast back then, that if they won the World Series, they would have been the greatest team in Philadelphia sports history. Better than any Eagles team at that point. I would put them ahead of the Broad Street Bullies, the Julius Erving, Moses Malone 76ers, the Mike Schmidt Steve Carlton Phillies, even the Connie Mack A's. That team would have been the greatest Philly team of them all. And they lost in the division series to a far inferior Cardinal team. Things can happen in a short series. Absolutely they can. And it could happen for a team like San Diego. They're absolutely the kind of team that if they play a short series and everything goes their way, they could go very, very far. I don't want to see this team broken up, at least not yet. They've got to get to at least a pennant. This is a franchise that has never won a World Series. They've only won one World Series game, and that was Game 2 of the 1984 World Series. As I've said many times, the only time the San Diego Padres have ever won the World Series was in the 1980 made-for-TV movie The Kid from Left Field, starring Gary Coleman and Robert Guillaume. And that doesn't count. So, Pivetta signs a deal, a surprisingly long deal. He got a 4-year deal, $55 million tomatoes. Good for the Pivetta family. Good for his grandkids who get to go to Harvard if they get in, tuition paid by Grandpa Nick. And the Padres, at least for now, are making sure, even if they deal away Dylan Cease, do you know what? We are still going to have a major leaguer in there. You know, I live here in Southern California, and while I live right around the corner from Dodger Stadium, I have an affinity for a lot of Orange County. I'm going to be getting my master's degree this year from Cal State Fullerton, and so I'm in Orange County a bunch, and I drive past Angel Stadium a bunch. And I would love, and did I mention love to see the Angels be good again? Because Trout's one of my favorite players. And also, it's just, I would like to see them, I'd like to see something good happen to this franchise. And they always strike me as and at least in the last bunch, at least during the Trout years, have struck me as the franchise that buys the banana just as it's getting squishy. That they pick up the pieces just after they're valuable. And of course, I mean, the greatest symbol of that was signing Albert Pujols. I made a video back in 2011 when he signed with the Angels after the great World Series with St. Louis. He was part of the team that eliminated that great Philadelphia Phillies team. And Pujols left for the Angels. And I remember in my video, I said, this is not going to work. This is a long contract. And it seems like every time they're making a move, they're bringing in someone like, they'll bring in Josh Hamilton, they're bringing in C.J. Wilson. They even, Joe Madden after his expiration date, although I still think he could be a great manager again. Toronto, call me. Poor Anthony Rendon, who, when he's with Washington, looks like a potential MVP candidate. He signs with the Angels, and what's the news today? The news today is Anthony Rendon to undergo hip surgery, facing a long-term absence. And I cannot stress this enough. I don't take pleasure out of talking about a baseball player's injury. I don't. I want to see players healthy on the field. Rendon, when he was playing with Washington, was a terrific talent. And you saw it in the World Series. They don't win the World Series without him. And then he absolutely collapses. Absolutely collapses in the process. And I'm kind of, my head's swimming because the Angels seem to buy contracts of players based upon, have I heard that person's name before? Tim Anderson. And let me get this perfectly clear. I'm a Tim Anderson fan. I like Tim Anderson. I liked him when he was playing with the Chicago White Sox. I thought he was going to be the face of the White Sox for the next bunch of years. And his stock absolutely did a complete nosedive. They win the division in 2021. He's an MVP candidate. In 2022, he is, the White Sox remain a quality team. And in 2023, he falls off a cliff. And then last year, he couldn't even stay on a miserable Miami team. So naturally, the Angels signed him. And with all this third baseman stuff going around, Bregman and all these other, and Arenado and everyone floating around there, who do they sign? They signed Yohan Moncada. I actually kind of chuckled when I saw that. Moncada, who was the big piece in the Chris Sale trade, and he gave the White Sox 8 years, and for some of those years he wasn't bad. He struck out way too much, but he had some power. He had a pretty good year in 2019. Was a big part of the reason why they went to the playoffs in 2020 in the COVID year. And he was okay when they won the division in 2021, but his stock fell off. So naturally, the Angels picked him up. The Angels need to buy someone. It's like you need to, buy low and sell high, and they buy high and sell low constantly. It's almost as if there's something wrong with management. I don't know. Jet Black Onyx writes to me, the Dodgers, still have to play 162, a playoff World Series winner in paper, don't get the trophy. Exactly. There have been many, many years with a team that's going in, many Dodger teams over the last bunch of years looked like they were the best team in baseball, only to get thwarted somewhere along the way. It's seldom, like last year, the best team in the National League and the best team in the American League did play in the World Series. Although I would argue that the Phillies were a stronger team and the Padres were a stronger team going into the playoffs. Lest we forget the Dodgers had to play, their rotation was in shambles. And if they had lost the division series to San Diego, which they almost did, that would have been the narrative. Oh, they had a great regular season team, but their rotation was a mess. So look, at San Diego, I like the move. It was a good move. You keep a major leaguer in the roster. If you're going to, the Red Sox, that's a really good move. They got an excellent player. They didn't get a huge long-term commitment to him. And you're going to have these three great young players coming up from the farm and have some of the solid veterans around them to take a little bit of the pressure off of them. As for the Angels, poor Mike Trout. Poor Mike Trout. And as for you, well, do you know what? We're going to be doing 5 episodes a week because pitchers and catchers have reported. And next week, I'm going to be doing my review of the free agent situation and see how many of my free agent picks came true. Some of them I got right on the head. Some of them I whiffed like Yohan Moncada. But follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever they're calling it right now, and on the Instagrams. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. But the best way to get a hold of me is leave a comment right here on YouTube. Talking about what looked like a slow news day. Say that 3 times fast. I'm not even going to edit that out. And ended with me going, awooga. This has been Locked On MLB. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.